Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I haven't done like a weekly reading wrap up in a hot second, so we are going to go over the books I read for the last couple weeks in February, and then we're going to talk about what I'm currently reading because I'm currently reading quite a bit. First book is Ghost Camera, and it is a bunch of small horror stories. So the first one is about a camera where if you take pictures with it, it shows you ghosts that are in the area. And over time you find out like how sinister the camera actually is. And then it follows into a bunch of other stories. My favorite personally was the last story, and I don't want to share too much because it kind of gives things away, but I like that one the most just because it wasn't paranormal, and it's like, in a way, kind of feels like something that could actually happen. Next up we have Metal Slinger, which I have done a video on. It has its own video for a review. Basically my points in that were that it felt like she got her answers really easily. She could ask a question and then just get the answer that she was looking for. Nobody really made her work for her answers, which was kind of annoying. But my other point of contention with this book was that the plot twist, like it is a plot twist, I just feel like putting it at the end didn't serve the book any justice. I think that it could have been played out from the beginning throughout the entire book, and it would have been more entertaining because you have the idea of I know something you don't, and I personally love that as a reader. I'm actually writing my own book and I have something similar going on in all of my books because I just feel like that's so fun. But I did like the overall plot and her storytelling in general, the trip and everything was still enjoyable to read about. I just wish that there had been a little bit more effort to find answers, and that maybe the ending had been set to the beginning and the story had been based off of that. Next, I read Priest, Sinner, and Saint, and these are like interconnect books about these brothers. I think we're missing a brother though, so like I feel like there could be a fourth book. Either way, the first book, he is a priest and he winds up falling for someone who comes in and does a confession, and it has this whole thing about his beliefs and how he isn't supposed to be disinterested in her and he's supposed to be celibate and just all of this. Book 2, she is going to school to become one of the head ladies there. And so she also has to become celibate, and she knows this guy. They're actually kind of friends. He's friends with her brother, so it's your best friend's sister. And she's actually encouraged to engage in these activities with him so that she knows what she's missing out on when she has to go celibate, which was insane. I was like, what are we doing here? But it was still very entertaining. I don't know, that was the spiciest one, I feel like, of all three of them. And then Saint is a same-sex couple book. These men are very entertaining, I have to say. They're both very similar but so different. And so he's left the country because he's trying to get away and reassess his life. He's trying to find a religion that fits for him. And he's done that, and he's been living that way for a few years now when his ex comes back into his life. And you actually kind of get to see a little bit of them in the second book. And so they broke up between the second book and the third book. And it was probably the best like relationship building one. They had more of a relationship already established and then like knew how to continue it when it restarted. The thing was that when he came back into his life, he had a fiance, and so things just happen and it blows up that relationship. And so since that relationship gets blown up, he actually goes, or they go together on this trip that he was supposed to be going on for his new religious eye-opening experience. Then we have the London Seance Society. I personally really enjoyed this book. It's dual POV, so you have the antagonist and then you have the main character, and you don't really know that the antagonist is the antagonist until almost like the very end of the book. But I do think that the ending could have been better. I think the author maybe changed her mind at the end on who the killer was going to be, and so it kind of fell flat for me. I was like, really, that's how we wanted to go about this? But essentially, this sister is trying to figure out her sister's death, what happened. And her sister had really been into seances and afterlife and things like that. So she fell into line with that after her sister passed away, hoping that she could find some answers and maybe contact her in the afterlife for her to tell her what was happening. And then I also read Vicious. I personally enjoyed this book. The concept was really interesting, and it's about like extraordinary people and how extraordinary people come into the power that they have. And the ideation is that if you have a near-death experience, like you actually die and come back to life, you become an EO. And so these frenemies help each other unalive themselves and then come back with these powers. So at first, one of them didn't think that he got a power because he didn't actually die. He got close to it, but he didn't actually die. And so they had set out to do the other man's unaliving. And he actually did die and then came back. And when he came back with the power that he could heal from anything. And so because he came back with the power, the other guy was like, well, all right, I'm going to try again. And he sets out to basically fry himself with the help of one of their other friends. And so she comes to help them. And this is where things spiral, is because he does die, but when he comes back, a lot of things happen in one moment that changes the path of his life. And he's made out to be the villain when the real villain is his friend, who is going around killing other EOs because he doesn't believe that they should exist. He believes that God gave him the power that he has because he needs to go out and kill these other people that have these powers. So when our main character gets out of prison, he brings along another prisoner with him, picks up a kid that's on the side of the road, and their stories all come together and intertwine. And he only got himself out because he wants to stop Eli, who is the one that has the power to heal himself. And he's figured out that he is killing these EOs, and he wants to stop him because he doesn't think that that is right. And so Eli finds out that he is out, and so he's trying to catch him before he catches Eli. And it creates a crazy full circle scenario. The girl that he picked up is the sister to Eli's girlfriend's sister. Wow. And so he only kept her around, Eli did, because of the power that she has. I'm not going to spoil it and tell you what power she has, but her sister has an even better power, and so it makes Eli go a little crazy. And then finally, I read a book I'm not going to mention, but there are dragons, so maybe you can figure that out. I personally liked it. I think that honestly, it might have been better than the first book. I know a lot of people don't like it because of the world building, and there were so many names dropped, but you have to think that between book 2 and book 3, that things probably were still continuously happening. There were more people being brought in from different areas. So she's trying to bring in more people that will eventually play a bigger role in the story. I do think that the island hopping or whatever the hell that was a little unnecessary. I think maybe one or two adventures would have been good enough instead of like 3 or 4. I almost threw my Kindle when the one dragon thought that she was gonna take it out. And I kind of want to say that I was happy that the book went the way that it went. I know a lot of people don't like it and that he turned all the way. I don't know. I was happy that she let that happen because I feel like there's not enough books where authors let things happen and they correct them to appease their audience. And I don't know, I was just hopeful throughout the book that that was what was going to happen instead of they're going to stop it before the full thing happens, because I feel like that makes for a more entertaining 4th and 5th book. All right, now let's get into the books that I'm currently reading. I am currently reading like 4 books right now. I am going to start Faithbound today with my friend. We're going to buddy read it because book 2 comes out in, I think, like 2 weeks. And I haven't pre-ordered it yet because I haven't read the first book. So I need to read the first book to decide if I'm going to be getting the second book before it releases, because I have to budget all these things in because we're trying to buy a house right now. And then I am also reading Out of the Woods. I'm not making very quick progress just because we haven't really gotten anywhere. I think I'm about four or five chapters in, and you're kind of just starting to see the downfall of their relationship before they go on this trip. And so there's not much happening, so it's not like necessarily holding my attention all the way. I'm not fully sucked in, but I think that once we get there, I will be more sucked in. And then I'm also listening to Lore, which I like, but I don't think I'm going to be keeping my physical copy just because I don't think it's a book that I would reread or re-listen to. I think that the concept is a good concept. I just think that there's not quite as much happening as I would hope for the book. And I think I'm like probably like 65% of the way in. So, I mean, there's action and stuff. It's just not what I expected it to be. I'll probably wind up rating it maybe like a 3.75. We'll have to see how that goes. And I'm reading another book that I'm not going to say the name of, but it is a traumatic series. The first two books where they lost their parents because of the father's actions. And then I saw a bunch of TikToks where it was talking about like vaguely things that happen in the third book. And so it really pulled my attention, and I was like, oh, well, I kind of really want to read the third one just to see like how much more devastating it is compared to the other two. I'm not very far in. I think I'm about 20% into that one, and I think it's one of her shorter ones. And I will say, he's been through quite a bit already in the first 20% of pages. Very anxious to see what's going to happen from his perspective and things that he had going for his life when he left the house and all of that, because I know from the first two books, he kind of was having it rough with her and her being the girlfriend. So I just think that his point of view is going to be a little bit more devastating in ways that the first two weren't. So anyways, that wraps up like 3 weeks of what I read. And I hope you guys will like, comment, and subscribe, because I am going to be picking these back up every Sunday. I know today is not Sunday, it's Monday, but yesterday I had like 6 hours of play dates with my son. So we were gone like all day. I didn't have any daylight left by the time I got home. But I will be continuing these. I did change my channel to Sundays and Wednesdays just because it was a little chaotic for me to try to squeeze in Friday with all of this stuff that I have going on right now. But this Wednesday, I will be doing a post of more book reviews, like individual books. So we'll see which book I pick for that, but I hope you guys will stick around.